Nice to see you all. Um, and it's nice to speak to you from Israel. We've been very busy over the Corona period. We kept the hotline running, and what we found that this was truly a crisis for people. During the 10 weeks, we received 168 calls of intimate abuse, 136 calls of domestic violence, 130 people called with severe trauma because of the Corona situation, and another 123 people called of other traumas. That means in 10 weeks, we had 557 new calls to Tehel, our crisis center. And this is surprising because there have been other crisis situations in Israel, and it hasn't brought forth so many phone calls. So I gave a lecture a few weeks ago on how do we build resilience before, during, and after crisis. And tonight we're actually going to take that one step further, and we're going to focus on our children. How do we build resilience in our children and our grandchildren? And I mentioned grandchildren as well, because you can build resilience in a child, whether you're an aunt, a neighbor, a teacher, a mother, a father, a grandfather. There are many ways that we can help our children get strong. Now, we can't change the fact that our children will face challenges throughout their lives. But what we can do is now, today, begin to provide them with skills so that these challenges don't break them. And that's really our goal. Our goal is to think, what tools do we have to give them so that they can deal with all of the challenges that life will bring? And what we have learned is that we can help our children develop resilience. It can be nurtured in our children. And what they can do is learn how to protect themselves from the ups and downs of life. We can give them the tools so that they can respond to this. Now, first of all, I want to say, it's not about clearing out the adversity in their life. We can't ever do that. And we might try to be parents who move all obstacles out of the way. And in many ways, if we do that, we might have done damage. Because if we don't teach them how to deal with everyday obstacles, how do we expect them to deal with serious challenges that face them? Actually, a little bit of stress enables them to develop these skills that they will need later on in life. And we all know that there's no such thing as a life without challenges and perhaps without crisis situations. What stresses are our children facing in life today? Well, there are stresses in many families. Even in good, functional, healthy families, there could be a stress. Someone could be sick. There could be financial stresses. There could be stresses within the family, and children need coping skills for this. There's often stress between siblings, peer pressures, whether it's bullying or just the pressure of, will my friends like me? How do I belong? Do they like me? Am I good enough? These are all stress on our children. Overscheduling of extracurricular activities. Now, in my day, when I had little kids, maybe they had one activity a week. But today you see that there's a tendency to one activity, another activity, another activity. And we believe that the best way to raise our children is to help them develop by bringing all of these activities in their lives. But these activities and this overscheduling is stressful. Let's mention school stress, whether it's the stress of grades, whether it's the stress of homework, whether it's the stress of the teacher, whether it's the stress of fitting in. And then sometimes there can be unexpected stresses like illness or like the Corona, COVID-19, which has affected so many of us in all the communities. Now, what we know is children are under enormous stress in today's fast-paced, ever-changing world. Now, think about their lives. It's constantly keeping up. Technology is changing. Life is moving so quickly. And this is stressful for our children. And this can be potentially dangerous and damaging to them it can affect their psychological well-being, and it can affect their physical health. I think, Rabbi, you have to every so often make sure they're all pressed because noises from the background are coming up. Just keep pressing if you see someone's not good. Thank you. So what we are seeing is the stresses of everyday life can affect physically and psychologically our children. So let's start. What is resilience? And what do we mean by resilience in children? Now, resilience has become the word. Zoom has become the best friend of all of us, and resilience has become the word. But what do we mean when we talk about resilience in children? What are we trying? Resilience is the ability to bounce back from a stress, to bounce back from a challenge, from a tragedy, from a trauma, from an adversity. Now, children have different levels of resilience and different ways of responding to and recovering from stressful situations. But also we will find that they have different ways of showing us when the demands placed upon them are too much, when it's beyond their ability to cope. And if we think children will tell us in one way, then we'll be surprised. There are many ways that children can tell us that this is just too much. They can't cope. Some of them may become very emotional, crying all the time, or irritable all the time, or just always full of emotion. Others may become withdrawn. They'll move into their shells. They'll become very quiet, very introverted. Others may become defiant, and we will see really acting out defiant behavior. Some will be angry, some will be resentful, and some will resort to age-inappropriate levels. In other words, they'll go back to things they did in the past, whether it's bedwetting, whether it's thumb sucking, whether it's not being afraid of going places. In other words, we will see them go back to earlier behaviors. There are many signs that children can send us that the stress is too much, the crisis is too big, and they need help. But the big question is, can resilience be learned? Can we teach it? Can we model it? Can it be developed? Can it be nurtured? And the answer is yes, 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 yes. The right experiences can shape our children and can do more than shape them. It can even build and change their intrinsic characteristics. What we've heard a lot about in the past 5-6 years is neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to rebuild and build new channels and make serious changes. And this has been coming up in all of the studies in the past 5, 6, 10 years. And what they have found is this happens in children also, that through nurturing them and enabling them to have coping skills, they can create new neural ways within their brain and make serious changes in intrinsic characteristics. A child can grow into resilience. So let's talk about how we do that, okay? And I think what's amazing is that we can all do it. It's not bigger than us. And it's something that we can do for 5 minutes with a child during the day. What is the first thing that a child needs to build resilience? And you all know the answer to that. Relationships. Research has shown that if it's not strong independence and it's not a child who is self-reliance that is going to be the one that will get through adversity. You might think the most self-reliant, most independent children, they're the ones who are going to get and bounce back and get through that challenge. And yet research has shown us that rather it is the presence of at least one supportive relationship. If a child has one supportive relationship, this can help them get through adversity. Now, we've heard stories about this. Oh, of children who went through serious, serious abuse in their homes. And they grew up to be amazing adults. And when they were asked, how did you do it? And they would say, there was a grandmother or a teacher or a neighbor who took me under their wing. One supportive adult can really help a child build resilience. So what do we have to do? A, we want to be that supportive adult, and we'll talk about how to do that. But more than that, surprisingly, we have to do more than that. It's not enough for me to be that good adult. I have to also expose them to other people who care about them. Why? Because if I'm not around, I have to know there's other people who they can go to who will support them. An example could be, I called Grandma today and I told her how brave you were. And she was so, so proud of you. What am I doing there? I'm showing the child that not only is Mommy proud of him, but Grandma's proud of him. Not only does Mommy care about him, but Grandma cares about him. I'm exposing the child to the fact that there are other adults who care about them. And the more that I could expand upon that, the stronger their resilience can be. And the more people they will know are available to go to for help in times of crisis. What we want to do is work on helping them build a social support system. Now, what they have found in research is that children that have a social support system will have higher positive emotions, higher self-esteem, more optimism, more motivation, and a sense of person control. 1 minute. Let's go through that again. Children who have a social support system will have higher positive emotions, higher self-esteem, optimism, motivation, a sense of person control. What are we talking about? Resilience. In other words, a social support system helps a child be resilient. Children need to know that there is an adult in their life who believes in them. And we have to tell them that. And we have to show them. I know this is hard for you to do, Esther, but I believe that if you keep trying, you'll be able to do it. Those are the messages. I believe in you. I believe in your strengths. I will believe that you will get to the other side. This is one of the ways of nurturing resilience. Another way is let them know that they are loved unconditionally, that it doesn't matter who they are or what they do. We may want to help them change or grow, but we love them unconditionally. And sometimes that might even be a specific special job for a grandmother, a grandfather, an aunt, an uncle, because sometimes as parents, we have to move maybe into the discipline mode. And sometimes a child could get confused. Well, if they're disciplining me, do they really love me unconditionally? But grandparents, aunts and uncles brought into this picture pure love, unconditional. This builds resilience. And let them know that it's okay and it's good and it's right to ask for help. From a very young age, we try to teach our children to be independent, overly so. We want them at a very young age to know how to dress themselves and do this and do that and do this. But 1 minute, let's step back a little. What we have to teach them also at a young age is the significance of asking for help. It's okay. It's good. It's right. I'm proud of you, Yossi, that you went and got help when you couldn't finish that. I'm proud of you that when you saw that it was too heavy, you went and you asked your sister to help you. Over and over again, we want to reinforce that. Because what is society teaching? Society is teaching children to be strong, to be independent, to be able to do everything, we have to remind them asking for help is important. And if we can learn to ask for help, we can build resilience. The resilient person is not the person who can do everything by themselves. The resilient person is the person who in time of need knows when and how to ask for that help. We have to tell them that being strong, being brave, being courageous sometimes means knowing when to ask for help. And that's a switch. Think about it. When you ask a child to describe what is courage, they never say it's asking for help. What is being brave? We have to add on to that whole definition of courage, of superhero, of all these things that our children try for. One of them is asking for help, is reaching out. What we want to do is talk to our children about the circle of people in their lives, and maybe even help them organize different circles. We have the inner circle of people that we can really, really depend on. And then there's another circle of people that will be there for us if we reach out. And then there's other people that if we need a bowl of sugar, something little, we might ask for help. And then there's people that are acquaintances, but we don't really know them, and they're not our circle of help. Now, this is very important when we talk about safety and safeguarding, and that's not tonight's lecture at all. But we have to open this discussion up. Who are the people in your inner circle? And the next circle, and the next circle, and the next circle. Now, it's very interesting. This talk is often done in special education. Special education, a lot of good teachers will teach child to know all the different circles of relationships, because sometimes children in special ed don't know what is appropriate with which people. But wait a minute, we're not doing that with regular children. Why not? Every child needs to know about who are the people that it's safe to ask help for, and who can they reach out to, and who do you reach out to for what? The circle of help. And this is important because our children should not be told only to reach out to help for us, because sometimes we may not be available, or sometimes we may not be around. The next thing that we want to work on is building their confidence, their belief in their own abilities. What we want to do is zero in on each child and help each child know their specific qualities, their specific strengths, and let them get confidence in those qualities and confidence in those strengths. And then, once I have confidence in my qualities and strengths, I can start having confidence in myself as a human being. So if somebody's really good at riding their bike, wow, Yossi, you ride bikes so amazing. You are so good. And I'm going to build up their confidence in that. And then they're going to feel better about themselves as bike riders. And then we can move on and they can feel better about themselves in all different areas. We want them to feel confidence in their ability. Imagine if we could teach them that they really have the ability to do anything if they just keep trying. What a gift we could give the kids. Now, it's very important, on the other hand, to give honest praise. Praise for what they have done well. And sometimes we make big deals about things that really they didn't do so great at. When they didn't succeed at something, it's not the time to give them abundant praise, because then we're giving mixed messages. It's the time to maybe say, I believe in your ability to do even better next time. But it's not the time to give exorbitant praise about what they did. So we want to give real, honest praise when it's deserved. And we want to stress our belief in their ability to constantly do better and get stronger. We want to help them focus on their unique strengths Esti, what is your unique strength? Yossi, what is your unique strength? What are your strengths? And if a child can feel proud and good of their strengths, we're starting to help them build a resilience. We want to teach them to avoid comparisons to friends and to siblings. Okay, that sounds really hard, right? Kids are constantly comparing themselves to their siblings or to their friends. But how can we help them get out of that? Get out of that rut. Esther, you have so many fine qualities. You don't have to compare yourself to Rifki. Why, just last week you did ABC, and I'm so proud when you do DEF. Move them away from the comparisons. And as parents, not comparing them to their oldest sister or their youngest sister, and all of these comparisons that just lower their sense of I can, I will be able to. Show them that you believe in them and their abilities, and help them to believe that you know they will be able to handle situations effectively. And we're going to talk about how you do that. So first of all, empower their ability to make decisions from a very young age. Esty, do you want to wear the blue shirt or the red shirt today? We can start that at 3 years old. Okay? Help them make decisions. Now, sometimes we have to decide, but if there's place to teach them to make decisions, when they ask us a question, what they should do, let's reflect it back first. What do you think? Honey, what do you think is the best thing to do in this situation? Over and over again, we're going to try to help them see that they are capable of making good and logical decisions. And sometimes we can do this with board games. Now, board games are not just about passing time, and board games are not just about family nights. Board games are also very good teachers. Board games teach impulse control. You're waiting your turn. Planning, making decisions, memory. Think how many things go into board games. And if we can play board games with them, we can help them with impulse control, decision making, planning, and these are all things that will lead to resilience. Now, often when I have children in therapy, children at the age of 10, 11, 12, we might spend months just playing board games. And the parent might say, well, I'm not really sure what this is helping. And there's so much that is going on in a board game. Trust. How do they react when they lose? How do they deal with frustration when they pick the wrong card? These are all parts of helping them deal with things that will happen in life. So board games could be fun, but they can be a way to build resilience. Memory games, where you have to turn over cards and remember things. These are also things that will help them build their resilience. Don't push a child to take on more than they can handle. This won't help them grow up. Now, often I know in the older generations, they felt like we have to teach children at a young age to take on a lot of responsibility. This will make men out of them. This will make them grow up. Yes, responsibility is a lovely thing to teach a child, but we don't want to push a child to take on too much responsibility, because then what are they learning? They're learning, I can't, I fail, I'm no good. But if we can slowly see how they deal with different types of responsibilities and let them grow through it, we can help them build up. We can help them build up resilience. Another type of play is creative play. Okay? let's throw away a lot of the machines, a lot of the gaming machines, and bring out the little animals, the little dolls, the little figurines, the blocks. How many of us remember when our children would Shabbat afternoon build whole cities all over the living room? And how creative this was. But what did they learn? They learned planning. They learned, okay, I don't have this piece. You know, when my kids were young, you bought them Lego sets. Today, there's a Lego set for everything and there's instructions. But then what do they do when they're missing a piece? And what do they do when, all right, they've done the instructions? Allow for creative play. And if you're missing a piece, how do we build it in another way? How do we think outside the box? How do we find solutions when it didn't work out? And creative play is a great way to do that. You put one block on and the whole thing fell. Wow, you get to start again. You get to try again. And this time you can do it differently. There's so much that can be learned and taught with little children and creative play. As we talked about when we talked about adults building resilience, we talked a lot about the place of routine. Routine gives a feeling of safety, of security, of control. Now, what studies have found that in a time of crisis, if a person builds themselves a routine, the brain stops sending messages of SOS and they can relax and calm down. Routine. So it's very important for children to learn how to build routines for themselves, and giving them routines and helping them with routines help them feel safe and secure and in control. And this allows them to build up resilience. Now you might say, 1 minute, that doesn't make sense. If they get so used to routine and then something happens that smashes the routine, how are they going to be resilient? But if they've learned how to build routines and how to adapt routines and how we change them and are flexible and then rebuild a routine, they can use these skills in times of crisis and rebuild a routine for themselves. And this makes them feel safe. Often, if you go on a trip with a child or they're going to sleep at their grandma's house, they may take an item with them, a teddy bear or a blanket, right? Because it's something that allows them to feel secure. So we're going to help them think in all different situations. What routines will help them feel good? What planning will help them feel good? What object will help them feel secure? And teach them how to do this, how to build these routines as they get older. Sometimes change is very difficult for children. Some children flow with change, and some children, every change is an obstacle. But if we prepare them and we talk about it and we think with them, how are you going to handle this? Then we're teaching them a very big coping skill. Something happens, but I can plan and I can think and I can make a seder, an order, a routine. And then I can feel safe and I can feel in control. Now, this is something we can start at a very young age. We're going to Bubby's house for Shabbos. What would you like to take? What will make it easy for you to sleep there on Shabbos? Helping them think ahead of time and planning and packing and taking. So already at a young age, we're teaching them to plan ahead. If something happens in the middle of our plans and it's a change, we express to our kids, oh, this isn't going to work the way we thought. Let's rethink. Let's recalibrate. Let's replan. And we're going to make them part of that process. We all decided to go to the park, and this is where we're going to go tomorrow. And we wake up and it's pouring rain and we can't go. Oh, we're disappointed. But let's rethink. What can we do instead? Let's replan. Maybe we can do the picnic on the floor in the living room, just like we were going to do in the park. And let's pack that picnic basket and prepare everything we were going to have in the picnic in the park. Helping them take the obstacle, see that things have changed, and rebuild, and replan, and remake an order. Talk to them what to do when routines are interrupted, when routines can't take place, when routines must be changed. Now, this is particularly important for children who can't deal with change. So we have to talk to them ahead of time. What would you do if this routine was changed? What would you do? Talk it, make it part of the conversation. You know how to take the bus to school. What would you do if the bus made a wrong turn and went a different route? What would you do if you fell asleep and you passed your bus stop? We're going to talk about the obstacles ahead of time. So in essence, what we're teaching them is to develop a way of thinking that if there's a change, if there's an obstacle, hey, I can just recalibrate. I have abilities to deal with it. I can figure it out. So we're going to teach routines. We're going to teach flexibility and then finding another order. And we're going to really try to get them involved in some of these processes. If things change, if a routine is interrupted, instead of just saying, look it, we're sorry, this is the way it's going to be. We're sorry things changed. Come, let's think together. What would be right? What would be the right way to handle it? Let's try to find opportunities to help our children think and act independently in situations, rather than always telling them, now you do A, then you do B, then you do C. What's really important is we help children develop a sense of competence and a sense of mastery. You know, Esther, you've got what it takes. I see it. You have perseverance. You've got what it takes to keep going. You're going to get there in the end. Again, I know that you're going to be able to master this. It's hard at the beginning, but I believe in you and I know you're going to get there in the end. We want to teach kids that trying is good and trying is okay, and even sometimes to take calculated risks, but we have to think it through first. So in other words, we want to take a child, encourage a child to think what would be a safe, pre-considered risk sometimes, and to take them. And obviously, each is going to be at their age level. What would be right for a 7-year-old? What would be right for a 10-year-old? So that if something does happen, they're used to making these kind of decisions. Now, research has shown that a good way to build resilience is to help others. And they have found that if we teach children to help others, if we teach children to do chesed, we are creating opportunities for them to also nurture resilience. So what we want to do is create opportunities where they can help other people. Let them help Bubby. Let them help Mommy. Let them help their sister. Create opportunities where they are doing chesed. And this is another way of building their resilience. Because by helping them, they see that not only can the world get better, but the world gets better because of them. And that is powerful. Let's go back that a minute. By teaching children to help, we're not only teaching them to make the world a better place, we're teaching them that the world is a better place because of them. And what does that do to their sense of self, to their sense of what they can achieve? The world is a better place because you. Now, I heard a wonderful quote recently I read by Janice Steinfeld, where she said, I can't do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that I can do. I thought that was marvelous. I can't do all the good that the world needs, but the world needs all the good that I can do. Isn't that amazing? And look at if we could teach our child. Obviously, none of us can change the world, but that's not what it's about. The world needs every chesed that we do. And we're teaching the child that the world needs every chesed. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants us to do all these cheseds. These are so important for the world. And that is building up something big and strong and beautiful in the child. Let's talk a minute about spirituality. Helping children connect to Ruchnius, to spirituality, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to Hashem, to prayer. Now this is a whole nother way of helping them build resilience. Asking Hashem for help, reaching out to Hashem, making a connection with Hashem builds resilience inside that child. And it's not that you have to daven because you have to daven because mommy said or the teacher said, but it's a chance for you to get close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to hear your prayers. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to hear what you have to say. That is building resilience in a child. It's taking tefillah, prayer, to a whole nother level. Help your child develop a set of morals and values to determine right from wrong. Okay, let's back up a minute. We're very good at teaching our children what is mutar and what is asur, what is allowed and what is forbidden in halacha, in Jewish law, in our lives. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about teaching our children what is allowed and what isn't, what is asur and what is mutar. We're talking about helping our children develop values and figuring out for themselves what is right and what is wrong. Now, maybe it's not usur, but is it right? Maybe it's not a chait, sin, but is it right? And if we can help them build up a moral compass, this will also build up their resilience and make them better able to cope with things that come their way in the future. We're going to help a child show caring behaviors. It's not enough to just do good. How do you show caring? How do you show your friend you care? How do you show your sister your care? And these are all important things that will come in handy when a child is dealing with challenges and adversity. Sometimes, as a parent, as an adult, we should show our children how behavior affects us. If someone does something, how we feel, and then how we respond and move forward. We're going to do modeling. Yes, I was disappointed, but I reminded myself that I can move on. Yes, I was sad, so I took a few minutes to sit and think, and then I went back to what I had to do. We're going to show our children different situations, how we took a minute, we had some feelings, and then we moved forward. And we're going to try to show them how their behavior affects other people as well. Let's model coping skills. What does that mean? It means we shouldn't show them we're perfect people. We're not perfect people, but we should show them what we use to cope. How do I cope when something changes? How do I cope? How do I cope when the oven burnt the cake? And I really worked hard to build this special cake for Grandpa's birthday. How do I cope? How do I deal with it? How do I cope when something didn't work out? How do I cope when I'm stuck in traffic? Okay, let's talk about that. Do we really want to model road rage? Do we really want to model that when we're stuck in the car and crazy drivers and we scream at them and get angry? How do we want to model coping with things in life? Reflecting it to our children. Let them see that we as adults use coping skills. Now, obviously, we're not talking about letting children know when you are going through serious trauma and how it's affecting you, but everyday coping skills. What are you using to cope? And children watch us. Children learn from us. Children breathe in these coping skills. We teach them by letting them see what we do, by letting them see how we respond. Sometimes discuss how you're feeling. It's okay to say I'm feeling sad or I'm feeling disappointed, because then children can learn we can have these feelings, but then we can pop back and be okay. So mommy can be sad about something, and then she can be happy and play a game with us. And what does a child learn? That even if they have feelings that are difficult, they have the ability to cope with those feelings and move beyond them and move beyond the situation. Don't rush to rescue your child. We want to. We want to rescue them. We want to make sure nothing bad happens. But if little things happen, give them the chance to cope before you run in and solve the situation. Our children can cope, and they can cope with many situations. So I'm not saying big traumas, but little things that happen. First, give them a minute. Give them a chance to maybe stand up and be okay. We don't have to right away pick them up and kiss their boo-boos. Maybe we can let them stand up first and, wow, you stood up even though you fell off your bike and that really hurt. Come, let me give you a kiss. Let's look at the difference between that. Oh no, they fall off their bike and you run there and you pick them up. Are you okay? Are you okay? Versus they stood up. Wow, look at that. You were able to get up even though the bike fell on you. Come here, I want to give you a big hug. We're showing them that they have abilities, and we're reinforcing those abilities of theirs. Allow for emotions to be discussed at home. Many emotions. Obviously, we have to show emotions often with respect, but let them express those emotions. Some families I know play around supper. What was the high point of your day? What was the low point? A lovely game where you go around and each child will say something that was wonderful and something that was hard or sad during the day. What was your high today? What was your low? Teaching them to express these things and to share them with others builds up their resilience. What we want to teach children is optimism. And a big part of resilience is learning to see the glass half full. And what does that mean? We're acknowledging what happened. We're acknowledging the way they see things, but we're showing them as well a different way to see it. Okay? What does that mean? We're trying to teach them to focus on what remains and not just what has been lost. So yes, something happened and something changed and something's been lost. I accept that. I reflect that back. But let's focus on what we do have. Let's focus on what remains. That is truly seeing the glass half full. Some children have a tendency to see it half empty. Some adults do. But we can practice and try to help them see what remains? What are the good things? What are the gifts? What did we get out of this situation? So maybe when a crisis is over and we're back on our feet, we can sit and say, what did we get? What were the gifts? How did we grow? Yes, this was really hard, but there were gifts as well. I invite all of you to look back at these past few months, and they've been very difficult. But you, each of you, what gifts have you received? What was HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanting you personally to learn? What messages are you personally supposed to take from this crisis? And the more I learn to do that on myself, the more I can help my child do it. If this is a nisayon from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, then it's my job to learn something. Not what Sarah or Esther has to learn, what Debbie has to learn. And if I practice that on myself, then I can help my children with that. What did you learn from this? What did you gain? What were some of the good things that came out of this? You can even ask them, what were some of the good things about being stuck at home these past 2 months? Talk about it. Optimism, seeing the glass half full. What we want to do is really teach them to reframe. Reframing is an amazing technique. And you can even start it really practical. You could show them how a picture can look totally different in a different frame, in a different book, in a different context. And how can we reframe things? We can even play a game of reframing. How could we say it in a different way? How could we look at it in a different way? Now, again, these are things we're going to do with children 7 years old and up, maybe not with 3-year-olds, but every age level. We're going to talk to our children about their circle of control. And this is really crucial to resilience. What is the circle of control? Well, first I invite you to figure out what is your circle of control. Okay? We all have different circles of control. There's the one circle where I have a lot of control there. And then there's another circle where I have some control. And then there's another circle where I have very little control. And then there's a circle where I have no control. And often, during times of crisis, many of us put all of our energies into circles that aren't even in our control. So in every situation, helping your child realize what is in their control. What are the things that are in their control? And let's put our energies there. What are the things that are somewhat of our control? And we'll put some of our energies there. And realizing what isn't in our control. And it really doesn't make sense to keep putting all of our kohot, all of our energy and time into things that aren't in our control. Now, before we can really teach this to our children, we have to first figure it out in our own lives and then help children figure out, what can you do in this situation? What can you change? What is in your control? And then they are really resilient because they're learning where to put their energies. And they're learning that they can achieve and they can change and they can do things. And that's really what resilience is about. We talk about resilience. We talk about cultivating the 5 important things: sleep, eating, exercise, relaxation, and a hobby. Now, those are important for adults in life, and in particular during a crisis. We want to make sure not to give up on those 5 things. The same thing with children. During a crisis situation, how can we help the children hold on or develop those 5 things. Sleeping. Yes, I know there's no school, but helping them have normal sleeping patterns will help them be resilient. Eating. Keeping somewhat normal eating patterns. Now, when everything is topsy-turvy, that is difficult, but we as parents can help them with that. And this will help them with resilience, because a child who is full of sugar and not getting sleep is not going to be able to cope. Exercise. What exercise is right? Exercise is crucial for the body to secrete hormones that relax us. It's crucial for our immune system. It's crucial for us getting strong and not getting sick. So in any crisis situation, what exercise can we do? Fitting it in, making it a crucial part of the day for the child. Hobbies. What does the child enjoy? And making time for that. If there's a crisis in the family or in the community or in the world, what brings the child joy? And making sure to make time in the day for that, because that is so important. And the final one is teaching children relaxation techniques. Whether it's breathing exercises, whether it's self-massage, often what we do is teach children the butterfly. You cross your hands, go like this, so it's like a butterfly, and you go up and down. Try that 1 minute, the butterfly. Now, when I go down and work with children in the South, when the rockets are flying, and we teach them, when you're really scared, when you really feel scared, you can do the butterfly. And when you do the butterfly, your body secretes hormones that relax you, and it's self-soothing. That could be a relaxation technique. Listening to music. Coloring. Now, we've all seen they have adult coloring books. Coloring books are wonderful for children because you don't have to be creative. You don't have to worry if the picture comes out good. All you have to do is color in. And there's something very meditative, something very relaxing. During a crisis, get lots of crayons, markers, coloring books. And when the kids are feeling stressed, suggest that. Especially during a crisis, we tend to get lax and we let go of these things. These 5 things: sleeping, eating, hobbies, exercise, relaxation, are crucial to resilience. We want to nurture a growth mindset. What does that mean? A growth mindset means we believe that we can change, that others can change, that we can grow and change. And if we teach children over and over again that they can grow, they can develop, they can change, this is a growth mindset. And growth mindsets are very important to resilience, because what does it mean? It's telling us that I can get stronger. I'll get bigger. I'll get faster. Our ability to grow and change is very, very important, because if we believe in that, we are resilient. It's often like even explaining to them that the bullies won't always be bullies, and the kids who are picked on won't always be picked on. Things change. We can change. We can grow. Research has found that children with a growth mindset believe in the potential to change, and therefore they're more likely to be resilient. Listen, listen, listen. If we want children to be resilient, we have to let them talk, and let them talk and know that we are listening, because this is building up their sense of self. And if they believe we're listening, they're learning that their ideas have merit, that they should think that there's a reason, that they're important, that they mean something. And this can build up their resilience. Often, what we have to do is help them develop problem-solving skills. Rather than run in and solve the problem, teaching them, okay, I see that you made a mistake. How can you fix this? Okay, I see we have a problem. What do you think we can do to take care of it? I see that you forgot your important book in school and you have a test tomorrow. What do you think we can do to solve this problem? Instead of right away saying, you know what, I'll call your sister and see if she can go to the school and pick it up. Them think of problem-solving skills are so important. Maybe I'll stop for a minute and see what kind of questions you may have before we continue. So if anyone has questions, they can open up their microphone. Any questions or comments or something you'd like to share concerning anything we've brought up so far? Okay, I guess not. We should go on. Okay. Really what we've been talking about is resilience isn't about never falling down. Resilience is about getting back up again. And that's really important. Okay? We're going to teach our kids that sometimes they fall, but they can get back up. And if they can't get back up, there are people in their lives who they can turn to help them. And this is very important. We're going to model for them that there will always be stresses in their lives, but they will get through them. That sometimes there's a challenge around the corner, but when there's a challenge around the corner, we can gather our strengths and meet those challenges. So someone asked a question, how do we judge what is age appropriate? Well, for each age, we're going to try to use some of these things. Whether we talk about decision making, that can be started at the age of 3. Problem solving can be started at the age of 3. Teaching them when they fall down, they can get back up, can begin at the age of 3. But obviously, each thing is going to develop at different age levels. The challenges that I might put before a 12-year-old will obviously be different than before a 6-year-old. But certainly, at every age, teaching them relationships, circle of control, reaching out, believing their ability, that would be at any age level. We can use all of these growth techniques so our child can decide and learn how to respond, that our child can choose how to respond instead of instinctually freezing or instinctually responding without thinking. We can help our children believe in their ability to cope, to survive, and go beyond surviving to thrive. And I really believe that we don't want to teach our kids just to cope and strive and survive. We want to teach them to thrive. We want to teach them to get to a much better place. And I mentioned in my last lecture, any of you have heard it, that there's a wonderful book by Sheryl Sandberg called Option B. And I think this is a great message for our children as well. And Option B is a book about Sheryl Sandberg went on vacation with her husband, very healthy, fit, and he had a massive heart attack and died on the vacation. And she had to come home to a totally different life, to raising her children without a husband, without a father. Now, 2 months after her husband died, there was father-son night in school. And she was so upset. She told her friend, I'm so upset. It's so hard for my son. He doesn't have a father to go with him. And a good friend of the family said, Cheryl, I'll take your son to father-son night. And she screamed, I don't want you to take him. I want his father to take him. And the friend answered, option A isn't a reality. Let's run with option B. And that's really what resilience is about. What we want to teach our children is sometimes option A, the way we planned, the way we dreamed, what we wanted, isn't a reality anymore. But we can come up with option B, and we can run with option B all the way. We can run all the way with option B. And that is resilience. And that is the gift that we can give our children. And then, of course, we're going to pray and daven that HaKadosh Baruch Hu should protect them, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu should take care of them, and He should watch over them while they have their resilience. And I do believe that every one of us has the ability to help every child we come in contact with build a little bit of resilience in their life. And what a better place they'll be. God bless you all. And may we really see us all get out of this coronavirus in a good way, and our children as well.
Thank you, Debbie. Thank you very much, and thank you all for joining.
Okay. Laila Tov. Good night.
Good night. Good night.